I never thought I'd be writing about something like this. My life was pretty normal until about a month ago. Married for 15 years to my high school sweetheart, 3 kids, and what I thought was a happy home. We weren't rich, but we had enough. Our oldest daughter is 14, and the younger ones are 12 and 10. Everything was fine until that Tuesday afternoon. I was at work when my oldest called me. Her voice was shaking as she told me that Mom had come home early, packed a bag while crying, and left without saying where she was going. At first, I thought maybe something had happened to her parents or a close friend. I tried calling and texting her, but got no response. I left work early and drove home trying to make sense of it all. We never had any big fights. Sure, we had small disagreements like any couple, but nothing that would make her leave like this. The kids were scared and confused. I was too, but I had to stay calm for them. After hours of no contact, I called her parents. They just said she was safe with them and asked me to be patient. That was it. I reached out to her sister, her brother, even her work friends. No one would tell me anything. Her brother claimed he knew nothing, and her coworker just said she left work around lunchtime. 3 days passed. No contact from my wife, not even with the kids. The only thing we knew was that she was at her parents' house, about 3 hours away. The kids kept asking what was wrong, and all I could say was that their mom was at Grandma and Grandpa's house and we needed to be patient. I wanted to just pack up the kids and drive over there. The silence was killing me. The kids thought we must have had some huge fight they didn't know about, but that wasn't true at all. We barely ever fought, and they knew that. Nothing made sense. I kept thinking, if someone had died, wouldn't she tell me? If she was dealing with some past trauma, wouldn't she come to me for support? We've been together since we were teenagers. I was always the first person she talked to about anything. But now nothing. After a week of this, I finally got some answers, but they weren't what I expected. Her father called me late one night. I had contacted the police for a wellness check earlier that day, which apparently caused some drama. That's when the truth came out. My wife had been having an affair for at least 4 years. The man she was seeing, someone from her work, had suffered a heart attack and passed away that Tuesday. Her mother and sister had known about the affair and kept it secret. Even after learning this, my wife still wouldn't talk to me or the kids. I felt like my whole world had collapsed. 20 years together, 3 children, countless memories. All of it felt like a lie. I couldn't sleep. During the day, I'd swing between feeling numb, depressed, and angry. At night, when the kids were asleep, I'd lie awake wondering how I missed the signs, if there were any signs to miss at all. I met with lawyers to understand my options. Started looking into therapy too, though the waiting lists were long in our area. Everyone kept telling me to take care of myself, exercise, eat well, avoid alcohol. I already didn't drink, and I was in decent shape, but finding the motivation to do anything was hard. The hardest part was that everything reminded me of her. We had our own jokes, little traditions, secret handshakes, things that seemed silly but meant the world to me. Now all those memories just brought pain. It felt like none of it had meant anything to her. I tried to keep it together for the kids. They were being amazing, actually trying to take care of me, which made me feel even worse. They shouldn't have to deal with this. They shouldn't have to be the strong ones. But I was struggling to even get through each day. After 2 weeks, her parents showed up at our house. They spent about 15 minutes with the kids, then asked to speak with me privately. They said my wife wanted to come home but was afraid to face what she'd done. They spent a long time trying to convince me to forgive her and rebuild our marriage. I could tell they were ashamed of what she'd done, but also that they wanted her out of their house. I didn't tell them I was planning to divorce her. I wanted to hear the truth from her first. After everything we'd shared, I felt I deserved that much. I also wanted the kids to see that I gave her a chance to explain herself, to handle things like adults. I told her parents she could come home if she sat down with me first and told me everything about the affair, start to finish. I also said she needed to apologize to the kids and answer their questions. I knew legally I couldn't keep her out of the house, but I hoped this would buy us some time. The divorce would take at least 90 days anyway, and I needed time to figure things out. She'd been texting the kids, telling them she was sorry and asking about me. My oldest showed me the messages. It seemed like reality was finally hitting her, but I still wasn't ready to have her back home. Then yesterday, she came back. I usually greeted her with a hug and kiss whenever she came home, but this time I couldn't even look at her. She tried to hug me, but I turned away. She acted like nothing had happened, like she hadn't been gone for weeks. I asked her to tell me everything, but she said she wasn't ready. We talked on the phone earlier that week, and she'd said the same thing. I reminded her that telling the truth was the only condition for her coming back home. She just repeated that she wasn't ready. I couldn't hold back anymore. I told her I knew about her 4-year affair with her coworker, how she planned to leave me for him, and how she disappeared when he died. I told her I wanted a divorce. The way she reacted was strange. She just stood there in the kitchen, staring at the floor. She looked surprised that I knew so much. We must have stood there in silence for 5 minutes. I prepared myself for tears, anger, denial, anything but this silence. So I started listing everything I knew about the affair. I talked about how they met, what happened during COVID, everything. She just kept staring at the floor. I got angrier as I talked, but I tried to stay calm. Finally, I asked her what I'd done wrong, if she ever really loved me, if her affair partner had been worth it. She said nothing. Just stood there, head down. No tears, no apology, no explanation. Nothing. That hurt worse than finding out about the affair. Then things got even worse. Our kids had been listening to everything. Our oldest came downstairs and started yelling at her mom. My wife ran upstairs and locked herself in our bedroom. That's where we are now. I can hear her crying at night. Only our youngest will talk to her. The rest of us avoid her. I want to tell her to stay with her sister until the divorce is final, but this is her house too. Living together is going to be awful. I was wrong about everything. All those years together, all those memories, I thought they meant something to her. I thought she'd beg for forgiveness, tell me everything, try to make it right. This is the same woman who once drove back to a store because they gave her too much change, but apparently our marriage wasn't worth the same honesty. The house feels different now. The kids and I had found a routine while she was gone, but that's impossible now. Every moment is uncomfortable. I keep reading that it gets better, but that seems so far away. I'm trying to stay strong for the kids, but it's hard. School will start before this is over. We have at least 3 months of living like this ahead of us. My oldest isn't speaking to her mom. The younger ones are confused. I'm trying to keep everything normal, but how do you do that when nothing is normal anymore? For a few weeks, we settled into a routine. She stayed at her sister's on weekends and came back during the week because her job was close to our house. Most of the time, we just avoided each other. The kids tried to act normal, except for our oldest, who still wouldn't speak to her mom after their fight. I tried to stay calm around her. When we had to talk, I kept it short and polite. It took all my strength, but I managed. Until tonight. Usually on Fridays, she'd leave for her sister's before I got home from work. But today she was waiting in the kitchen. She grabbed my hand and asked if I was going to keep treating her this way, just because she wasn't ready to talk about the affair. It was the first time she'd even mentioned it since coming home. The kids weren't home, and I lost it. Everything I've been holding back for weeks came pouring out. All the pain, the anger, the hurt, I told her everything. I'm not sure how long I talked. I cried, I yelled, I couldn't stop myself. For the first time, she actually showed emotion. She started crying, really crying, and kept saying I'm sorry over and over. Part of me felt satisfied seeing her hurt like I was hurting. I hate that I felt that way, but I did. I left before she could say anything else. She stood in the kitchen for a while, then left for her sister's. When the kids came home, they could tell something had happened, but I didn't want to tell them about it. The younger ones have been doing better lately, and my oldest doesn't need more reasons to be angry. I keep thinking about how she tried to start talking about the affair, but didn't get the chance because I exploded. I'm worried about her, even though many people would say I shouldn't be. She's isolated now, with almost everyone turning their backs on her. She deserves it, yes, but she's still human, still the mother of my kids. Then last night, after a month of living this way, she finally told me everything. We sat in my car in the garage so the kids wouldn't hear us. She talked for almost 3 hours. Her sister had introduced her to him about 5 years ago. He was a higher-up at the company where she wanted to work. She got the job, and then he started flirting with her. It began with text, then pictures, then became physical just before COVID hit. She told her sister and almost told me back then, but decided to keep it secret. She said she stopped seeing him during lockdown but started again when restrictions lifted. She tried ending it a few times but kept going back. She had a 5-page timeline written out. All the lies about weekend trips with friends, work travel, traffic jams, shopping trips, they were all excuses to see him. I had trusted every word. She never became distant like I've read about in other stories. Our relationship stayed mostly the same, which makes it worse somehow. She admitted falling in love with him. He was older, divorced, promised her expensive things and vacations. She started dreaming about leaving her responsibilities behind. She said family life had become boring, and the excitement was too hard to resist. When she finished confessing, she said she still loved me and would do anything to save our marriage. It felt fake, rehearsed. I've known her too long not to notice when she's not being completely honest. I stayed calmer this time, but I did ask her one thing that had been bothering me. If he was still alive and she had to choose between him and me, who would she pick? She hesitated before saying she'd pick me. I told her that hesitation was exactly why I was divorcing her. She started crying again. I told her we needed to be civil for the kids, to be good parents. I said if she really loved me, she'd make the divorce fair and easy. Then I did something I've been thinking about for weeks. I kissed her forehead and told her I would have loved her forever. Then I went inside. The deadline for her to contest the divorce is passed. That's good, I guess. But hearing everything made it all feel real in a different way. The love of my life, the only woman I've ever loved, cheated on me for 4 years because she was bored. Not because we had problems, not because she fell out of love, just because she was bored. I don't know if that makes it better or worse. Some days I feel stronger, like I can handle this. Then something happens and I'm back at the beginning. It feels like it's been years and also like it just happened yesterday. The kids are in therapy now. I am too. We're all trying to move forward, but it's not easy. I know this story isn't over yet. We still have months of living together ahead of us, still have to figure out how to be parents together while apart. But at least now I know the truth, even if I wish I didn't. They say time heals all wounds. I'm not sure I believe that yet, but I have to hope it's true. Not just for me, but for my kids. They deserve parents who can at least be civil to each other. So that's what I'm trying to do. Take it one day at a time, be the best father I can be, and hope that someday this won't hurt so much. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this story, please hit that subscribe button. Don't forget to give it a thumbs up and share it with friends or family who might enjoy it too. Your support means a lot. And if you have any thoughts, questions, or story ideas, drop them in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. See you in the next story.